May 6, 1910 marked the end of the reign of Edward VII, who was King of Great Britain and Ireland, as well as Emperor of India from January 22, 1901. He also earned the title of Austrian Field Marshal on May 1, 1904, and was the first representative of the Saxe-Coburg-Gotha dynasty to hold this post. Edward VII, the second child and eldest son of Queen Victoria and Prince Consort Albert of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, was born on November 9, 1841 at Buckingham Palace. He remained heir to the crown until his 59th birthday, and only by 2008, by the 60th birthday of Prince Charles, became the oldest Prince of Wales in the history of Britain. Despite his position, Edward VII had limited access to state affairs, and it is believed that Queen Victoria wrongfully blamed him for the death of her husband, Prince Albert. In 1875 to 1876, the Prince of Wales made an extensive trip to India, visiting countries such as Greece, Malta, Egypt, Aden, Gibraltar, Italy, Spain, and Portugal, which had a significant impact on European diplomacy. The reign of Edward VII began in January 1901 after the death of his mother. Until that moment, the future king, the Prince of Wales, was widely known as Albert, with the diminutive name Bertie. His mother, in memory of her late husband, wanted him to rule under the name Albert Edward I. However, given the absence of kings with the name Albert in the history of Great Britain and negative associations with this name, as well as its German origin, the official name of Victoria's successor was his middle name, Edward. Scheduled for June 26, 1902, the coronation was postponed due to the king's urgent appendicitis operation and took place on August 9 of the same year, making it the only postponed coronation in the history of Great Britain. He received his nickname Uncle of Europe because he was the uncle of several European monarchs, including Nicholas II and William II, who reigned at the same time as him. Edward VII made a huge contribution to the strengthening of relations between the two countries, visiting France, 1903, and Russia, 1908, with official visits. The Anglo-French Agreement in 1904 and the Anglo-Russian Agreement in 1907 were important events. He became the first British monarch to visit Russia despite the postponement of the visit in 1906 due to strained Anglo-Russian relations after the incident at the Dogger Bank. These historic steps in consolidating forces before the First World War gave Edward VII the status of a peacemaker, similar to the initiator of the Franco-Russian Union, Alexander III. He also actively contributed to the deterioration of relations with the German Empire and Kaiser Wilhelm II. In the Edwardian era, in Britain, there was an outbreak of espionage, alarmism, and Germanophobia. The king played a key role in the reform of the British Navy and a military medical service after the Boer War. In the Edwardian era, similar to the Silver Age in Russia and the peacetime before 1913, there was an increase in political activity of the population, the growth of socialism and feminism in the UK, as well as significant progress in industry and technical development. The Prince of Wales married on March 10, 1863, Alexandra, Princess of Denmark, December 1, 1844, November 20, 1925, who was also the sister of the Russian Empress Maria Feodorovna, known as Dagmar. 6 children were born from this marriage. Albert Victor, January 8, 1864, January 14, 1892, who became the Duke of Clarence. George, June 3, 1865, January 20, 1936, who later became King of Great Britain under the name George V. Louisa, 20 February 1867, 4 January 1931, who married Alexander, Duke of Fife. Victoria, July 6, 1868, December 3, 1935, who never married. Maud, November 26, 1869, November 20, 1938, who became the wife of King Haakon VII of Norway. Alexander John, April 6, 1871, April 7, 1871. During his tenure as Prince of Wales, Edward was famous for his love of life, passion for running and hunting. He was also known as a great connoisseur of female beauty and had many favorites, among whom were famous actresses such as Sarah Bernhardt and Lily Langtry. These relationships did not harm his reputation and were not hidden from his wife Alexandra, who treated these women with understanding. One of the last love affairs of the Prince of Wales was his relationship with Alice Keppel, their great-granddaughter, Camilla Parker Bowles, later became his mistress and then the wife of Prince Charles. Although it is officially believed that Camilla's grandmother was a descendant of Alice's husband, there is no documentary evidence that Edward recognized any children other than his legitimate heirs. In addition, Edward was an active Freemason and served as Grand Master of the United Grand Lodge of England from 1874 to 1901. He also participated in the meetings of many Masonic lodges both in the UK and on the continent. Some of his public appearances were devoted to Masonic themes. In 1908, Edward VII had the honor to open the Summer Olympic Games in London, which emphasized his important position as a monarch. He enjoyed great popularity as a prince and king not only in the UK, but also abroad, which was noted both nationally and internationally. Edward had an outstanding passion for smoking, consuming an impressive number of cigarettes and cigars throughout the day. In 1907, he managed to overcome a tumor of the basal layer of the skin, basal cell carcinoma, with the help of radium. However, towards the end of his life, he increasingly suffered from bronchitis and periodically lost consciousness, in particular during a state visit to Berlin in February 1909. In March 1910, King Edward VII fell ill while in Biarritz and was forced to stay there to regain his health. At this time in London, the politician Herbert Henry Asquith was actively working on the approval of the finance bill. There was no news about the king's health, and he was criticized for staying in France during such a tense political period. On April 27, Edward VII returned to Buckingham Palace, but his condition remained serious due to bronchitis. Alexandra, his wife, returned after visiting her brother, King George I of Greece, to Corfu a week later, on May 5. The day after his return, King Edward suffered several heart attacks, but refused to rest, saying, "No, I will not give up. I will continue to work until the end." Between moments of fainting, his son, the Prince of Wales, who later became King George V, told him about the victory of his horse, the Witch of the Air, at the Kempton Park races. The king replied, "Yes, I've heard about it. I am very glad." These words were his last. At 11:30 p.m., he passed out for the last time and was put to bed. He died 15 minutes later.